Hi, and welcome to Spooky Owls. Happy Halloween. What a great night. It's the big night of the year that we all get excited about. But of course, every day of the year is Halloween here at the Spooky Owls. To celebrate just another day in the Spooky Isles, we're going to be talking to Rick Hale. He's one of our regular contributors. He's actually based in America. And I thought it'd be a really good thing to do tonight is that we obviously talk about British and Irish ghosts, horror, dark history, all the spooky things that we love. We invented Halloween here in Britain and Ireland, but I think it's fair to say that the Americans really took it with and ran with it with gusto. So that's why we're talking to Rick. Rick's recently published a new book called Ghostwatch. Funnily enough, not dissimilar to what we were talking the other day with Stephen Volk, who was also Ghostwatch, but there's no connection there. And I'd like to having a chat with Rick about how our two countries differ, but obviously have a very similar outlook on the supernatural. So tonight, Halloween night 2022, we're going to be talking to Rick Hale about ghosties and all the spooky things. So this is the Spooky Isles. Hello, Rick. Happy Halloween.
Hey, David, happy Halloween. Oh, it is the greatest night of the year. I know a lot of people are like, they really love Christmas, but Christmas is a second to Halloween.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second because I actually don't disagree with you, but I do still think Christmas is a very spooky time. And I just wondered whether
Absolutely.
Americans see that the same thing. But yeah, we were talking about Halloween being
Mhm.
invented in Britain, but it was taken by the Irish, the Scots, all the people that do it to America. Uh, what does Halloween? You just said it was the. I know what it means to you because you obviously said it was the greatest night of the year. But what does Halloween mean to you?
Halloween for me is just it's so much fun because one of the things that I love about Halloween is you don't really have to buy any gifts for anyone. You don't have to be at any family members' houses. You dress up and you become something or someone that you're not. And you could just go out there and have a good time. I mean, yeah, of course, here in the United States, we have, sexy nurses and zombies and stuff like that. And that's just more of an adult thing. But yeah, Halloween is fun for adults, but at the same time, it's also something that's fun for the kids. And I've always loved Halloween ever since I was a child.
I was talking to you before we came on air, and I was just saying, being from Australia, we don't have the same kind of traditions as Americans or even and British people. My mum's from Scotland. She recalled as a little girl used to dress up and go door to door to the relatives' houses and
Mhm.
get some sweets. In Australia, we were, that's not what you do. You'll see signs telling people to piss off. We don't want that kind of American crap. So it's not something I really understand. I love it. I love it here. I run the Spooky Owl. So, I mean, it's a wonderful thing. I still don't like the trick or treat thing because I just think it's a bit of a scavenger type thing and I think it puts people out. Tell me about when you were a little boy. What was it like trick or treating?
Well, trick or treating was a little bit different for me when I was little because my parents were divorced. So my mom was from the northern Illinois. My dad lived in Chicago. So we had two very different ways of doing things. Like with spending Halloween with my mom, you just go from door to door doing the trick or treat thing. But when you're trick or treating in Chicago, it's a little bit different because rather than going to the front door, you go through the alley to a gangway, or that's kind of like a little alley. I guess you could say. You go to a window, you go to a back door, you got to climb up some old creepy apartment back stairs, which I guess made it sort of scary because those things could fall down on you at any second. So it's it had the best of both worlds. And city trick-or-treating, like I said, is a lot different from, say, trick-or-treating out here in the suburbs.
Okay, and so is it just because you're in a city and therefore there's lots of people in the same area, or is it more dangerous? What are the people like to you? I always think that they would be, that you always hear these stories about, check your sweets or there'll be razor blades in there or whatever they might be. They're going to put shit in there or something. I don't know, but
I
what's
love
the
those
difference?
stories. With those stories, razor blades or drugs. First off, no stoner is going to put anything in the candy because that shit's too expensive. So
Mm.
why do that? Those are just like urban legends that with like razor blades in the candy, or pins or needles or whatever, or some kind of poison. That's just some urban legend because it happened one time, and the guy poisoned his own children's candy and then allowed them to eat it. That is the only recorded time that anything like that has ever happened. So that in and of itself is an urban legend.
Okay, so he's basically murdered his kids, so it's got nothing to do with Halloween at all.
Yes. Well, the only connection is that it was their Halloween candy that
Okay.
they had sitting there for a couple months. So it happened, I think, more in like November or December.
Okay. So what did you dress up as? What were you back in the olden days when you was a baby?
When I was a kid, I really liked dressing up like Universal monsters.
Okay.
Frankenstein, Dracula. Like you already know, I have a huge love for vampires. But that kind of thing. I went as the Dread Pirate Roberts from the Princess Bride.
Mm.
A couple of years, it's one of my absolute favorite movies. I think that anybody who grew up in my generation would say that that's one of their favorite movies. But I always like dressing up like monsters or like ghosts, that kind of thing. I had no problem going as the same thing for a couple, 2, 3 years in a row.
Okay. Did you? I would have got some impression that you'd have been a Star Wars person for some reason, but you wouldn't have dressed up as Luke or Layla or something like
Leia, no, that would be kind of awesome though. But I don't ever recall dressing up like somebody from Star Wars.
No, I don't know why I thought that, but it's just maybe that's you'd make a good Obi-Wan Kenobi now. I think.
Yeah, it's funny because somebody actually said to me once that I looked like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's like I do not look like Ewan McGregor. That is one handsome devil. I do not look like him.
Well, we didn't say that, did we? It could have been a very, very old Alec Guinness, and it's
Alec Guinness, yeah.
no one's saying irrelevant. But anyway, so that's it. So it's a fun time, but it's not all
Mhm.
about trick or treating, though. I mean, and that's the good thing about you have the like your little pumpkin back here, your little jack o' lantern there,
I see
and
it.
you I've got other things. I haven't put them up yet. I'm sort of leaving it to the last minute. Uh, there's other things you could do for Halloween. So do you go to parties? What do you do nowadays? What how else do you celebrate Halloween?
We actually have a big party here at our house or our farm, and we've called it various things. Pumpkin carving contest, Halloween contest, fart fest. And the reason it's called fart fest, I know that sounds rather crude, but it's called that because we kind of have like a chili cook off. So like people bring different kinds of chilies, but yeah, this year it's like we're just having some family and some friends over. We're going to carve some pumpkins, eat some chili, drink some beer, and just kind of not so much celebrate Halloween, but celebrate the season.
Yeah. Do you do that actually on the night of Halloween?
No, actually, this Saturday. Usually, it's the Saturday before Halloween that we do it.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's like everyone else because I think Halloween's on Monday. Well, it is
Yeah,
Monday because it is Monday. What am I talking about? As people could just, that's our little pretense there, pretending this is actually Halloween night. But anyway, pretend that it's Halloween. You forgot what I just said there. Happy Halloween. Uh,
mhm.
but yeah, no, I think I'll be having a little party here for my granddaughter, and we'll be probably just watching, I don't know, Peppa Pig or something like that. There's so many great programs nowadays that you could watch all the
Mhm.
same shows they watch every day, and there seems to be a witch in it. So we could do that, or watch Meg and Mog, or other things. They don't necessarily need to be horror films. Do you have any particular horror films you watch each year for Halloween?
I like I said again with the classics. I love the classics. I hate slasher movies. Like
Mm.
I know that they just had the new Halloween Ends movie come out. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're gonna watch it? You like horror movies?" It's like, no, I like watching the Todd Browning Dracula, or the new Dracula movie that came out in the early '90s, or Interview with the Vampire, or the old Universal monsters, and or even I like watching this. I'll sit back and watch what I call the spooky shit on Discovery Plus. I'll watch some of the shows that are on there. Not really a huge fan of, say, like ghost hunting shows, but I like more of the documentary type stuff. But even that can be kind of kind of
Well, as I
lazily.
say, it's spooky. It's Halloween every day on in the spooky hour. So I mean, I'm very much the same. I recently did a talk on Washington Irving and the Headless Horseman, and I said that's the kind of thing I think is Halloween. You know,
Yeah.
these things are just murder. They're not necessarily spooky. They're fun, and I like them, but they're
Mhm.
not spooky. So I'd rather watch something like Sleepy Hollow
Yeah.
or yeah, recently, I think it was Jules Bass recently died, and he was one of the creators of all those stop animations you saw, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed
Mhm.
Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman, and of course Mad Monster Party,
Mad
which was
Monster Party.
which
Yeah.
is awesome, and I think it's the perfect Halloween film. Mad Monster Party, starring Boris Karloff, Phyllis Diller, all
Mhm.
these crazy monsters. It's basically like Hotel Transylvania. Hotel Transylvania is Mad Monster Party,
Right.
but I
Right.
think that's the kind of films I think I'd like to see on Halloween because it's just fun and spooky and all that. And it's we could be watching Jeffrey Dahmer shows every night of the year, and that's the kind of thing that I'd like to see. And I think you're pretty much the same.
I really am. A particular favorite here in the Hale household is The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah,
Because what's great is you can watch it on Halloween and you can watch it on Christmas. So you have the best of both worlds there.
I haven't actually seen that since it came out. I actually saw it at the cinema, and I
Mhm.
haven't seen it since. But I think maybe I need to watch it for Christmas. So it sounds like a Christmas film to me because it's The Nightmare Before Christmas. So I don't know. Well, I've seen all
It
the other Tim
is
Burton films lately, but not that.
it is a very divisive issue with some people. Some people don't. Is it a Halloween movie? It's a Christmas movie. Some people actually debate this, but hey, it's
Yeah.
subjective and it's all
But you're
it's
saying
all.
watch them both.
Oh yeah,
Watch it 6 weeks between each other or whatever, or 2 months between each other. So it's
that's
actually
right.
about 6 weeks, isn't it? So that's a good film to watch. So I think it's right. You want to watch stuff that's spooky. I mean,
Mhm.
people do whatever they want, really. And, if they want to watch blood and guts, that's fine. But I think there's time and place for that, and you know, watching silly ghosty things is much better.
Sure, I
So
agree.
yeah. Now we were talking before, and I mentioned when you've released a new book. Now you've been writing for Spooky Isles for quite a few years now, and you've
Mhm.
used some of that research and your writing from that, and you've mixed it with some of the other websites you write for around the world,
Yeah.
and you've created a book called Ghostwatch. Now, can you
Yes.
tell us about that?
Yeah. Ghostwatch really was
I'm
a
going to
book
show
that
it here. Sorry,
really. There
there it
it
is.
is.
There.
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh,
yep,
it's
yep.
beautiful. I just want to highlight that the cover was done by Mark Hetherington, who did this book and my last two books, and he is an amazing artist, and I really have a lot of respect for his work because shit, I can't draw like that. But yeah, so he's great. So it was with Ghostwatch. Ghostwatch really came together quite easily. Um, I said to Mandy, it's like, hey, I want to do a book and I want to do a compilation book of a lot of articles that I've written across because I guess I have a huge body of work. I've never really thought about it before. So I took from Spooky Isles, took from Paranormal Study, took from Legends Magazine, took from um, Paranormal Underground Magazine, and just brought all of these together. But there is, it was something that came together very very well, but it was also a huge labor of love because as well as many other people know, I am a great admirer of Mr. Peter Underwood,
Hmm,
who is arguably or was arguably Britain's greatest ghost hunter,
hmm,
and that's where Ghostwatch comes from. It was a show that he did for BBC Radio back in the early 80s. I want to say 80 or 81, and where he read some things that he had written or where he had investigated, and did it for BBC Radio. So it started off with me doing Ghostwatch just as a segment for my show, the Shadow Initiative. Um, Paranormal Talk and TV that I do with my good friend, colleague, and general pain in the ass, uh, Mr. Stephen Lancaster. And, when I started doing that, I wanted to do it right. I didn't want to just be some schlub who was, I got to pull this up here. I didn't want to do it and be just some schlub who was, trying to ride the coattails of a truly great author and paranormal investigator. So I said to Mandy, I'm like, Mandy, I want to do this thing right. And I would love it nothing more than to get the official okay of the Underwood estate, because my respect for the man is that great. So I had Mandy write him, and this is what he sent back. This is Adam Underwood, like the guy who oversees the whole thing. It's his grandson. And he says, "Hey, MJ, Mandy Collins, very nice idea. It gets 2 thumbs up from the Underwood family. Not that permission would really be needed, I suppose, since copyright does not protect individual names, titles, or phrases, but it is a nice formality to be asked. I'm sure Peter would be flattered that someone was following in his broadcasting footsteps. I wish him the best of luck in his endeavor. Warmest wishes, Adam."
That's lovely.
Still one of my favorite things in the world. I just put it back up on my Facebook page today. And so it was like it was very important for me to not only get it right, but to get that thumbs up. And so it went from there as a segment on our show. It's a weekly segment, or on every episode that we do, and with the book as well.
Yeah, so that's really nice. So as I said, the book contains stuff you wouldn't normally do for Spooky Isles because it's not in Britain or Ireland.
Right.
What are some of the more unusual places or unusual hauntings that people will find in this they might not know about?
Well, one of the ones, we always think of like haunted places here in the United States, or we think of haunted places over in, the United Kingdom and Ireland. And one of my favorite in the book is the White Witch of Rose Hall in Jamaica. Now,
Okay.
not many people really think of, as Jamaica being a place where you're going to find ghosts, but you do. And the White Witch of Rose Hall is this huge estate. I believe it's near Kingston. And back in the 17 and 1800s, it was oversaw by a woman. Her name was Annie Palmer. And Annie Palmer was quite the tyrant. And she learned magic, or, voodoo, in order to oppress her slaves. And, she unleashed an evil spirit that they called the Duppy. And people in Jamaica live in fear of the Duppy. Like this is an evil spirit that can kill you. And so finally, her days came to an end when she got into a magical battle with a high priest of voodoo. I believe, he was actually the father of a young man that she had killed. In her time, she had taken many lovers, and she from among the slave population, and she would have her way with them. She had a voracious sexual appetite. After she was done with them, she would kill them, poison them, stab them, shoot them, whatever. Well, she did it to the wrong person, and Dad turned out to be like one of the big dogs in Jamaica as far as magic and voodoo were involved, and he managed to kill her, but her ghost still haunts. And they say that on some nights they can see the ghost of Annie Palmer riding out of Rose Hall on her black steed, still causing all sorts of chaos in the general area of Jamaica. So I think that really is one of my favorite places, and it's definitely on a list of places that I want to go.
Yeah, no, it does sound. I think going to Jamaica for any reason would be a fun thing to do. But that sounds a really, and it kind of. I can't remember the name of the woman, but it was a similar thing in New Orleans. They showed her on. She was a woman that was an evil one that used to do that kind of stuff. What was her name?
Delfino Laurie.
Yes, I did.
And
I did a ghost tour of New Orleans once, and that was before American Horror Story. But that's a wonderful tale. That one.
yeah, she was quite the degenerate. I guess
Yeah.
that's the only way to put it. And she really was like America's first and most well-known female serial killer.
Mm.
And it all came to an end one day when one of her slaves that she had locked up in the kitchen decided to cause a fire.
Mm.
And when they finally came and they broke in, they went up to the attic, and they found, people with with their limbs chopped off, and they found people and even young children chained to the wall.
Apparently, she broke limbs and reset them in other ways, so their bodies would all be like like that.
Oh yeah, she was uh, quite. I don't really like using the term evil because I think evil is just one of those. I'm not a religious person by any means, but if anybody can be called evil, it was definitely Delfino Laurie. An interesting tidbit about that. Actor Nicolas Cage actually owned that building for a long time after it was turned into, and it's also been turned into apartments. And from what I understand about Nicolas Cage, he has a real interest in things like the occult and the paranormal. And that's one of the reasons that he bought it. And he himself never actually entered the building because he was too afraid to do that. Some of the spirits that haunt that building, you get a lot of like weird noises up in the attic where she kept, all of her victims. You get dark shapes and attacking people. One of the spirits that attack people is a slave, practically naked, just dressed in tattered clothes, chasing children with a whip. So yeah, it's another one of those places, and I believe that one is in the book as well. And that's another terrifying place that I would love to visit. Maybe one day I will. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. We're all talking about how we want basically sweet, cartoons and stuff for Halloween, and we're all talking about these things about people being tortured and all that. So we're incorrigible, really. So you've got those two horrible stories there. We talked Jamaica. We just said New Orleans.
Mhm.
Are there any cute stories? Are there ones that are less horrific than that, but still as spooky?
Well, that's what I have to look up here. And let me see. Let me look in. Where is it? Well, one if by land, two if by sea is not really. It's a restaurant in New York City, and it has real historic ghosts in it. And one of the interesting stories about the one if by land, two if by sea is that there is a table of rowdy gentlemen dressed as if they were back in the old days, back in the 1700s during the Revolutionary War and all that. And they sit at this table. They're heavily drinking like they did back then, and causing a ruckus. People are complaining, hey, who are these guys who are basically dressed as cosplay Revolutionary War era type people? And when anybody goes to approach them and say, hey, you guys need to relax and knock it off, they immediately just vanish. So I think that's kind of
It's
kind of a
polite,
cool
isn't it?
story. Yeah.
It's more polite than most, isn't it? You wish that everyone would do that. That they were carrying on. You asked them to leave, and they left straight away. So,
Sure.
but that's pretty cool. And how often has that been seen?
That is one of the ones that is seen quite frequently, and it's really strange because it's like you don't. Sometimes when it comes to stories like that, you got to wonder. It's like, are people really seeing things, or is this just something that somebody saw one time and then it just sort of like filtered out into the rest of the world? And but no, this is one that people frequently see in the restaurant. And but as far as that's concerned, I mean, most of the ones in here are, there are their death was caused in some violent fashion, or that kind of thing. And then that's one of like the long time theories in parapsychology, is that people don't know that they're dead, or they die suddenly, through a violent means, unrequited love, that kind of thing. And I think that you're going to find that a lot here in this book.
Yeah, no, that is true. I mean, people that most ghost stories are not someone that died when they were 98 on their deathbed and then kept wandering around afterwards, is it? It's
No.
always it's something dramatic, it's something horrible that makes the story, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not really a ghost story. We said, and then she lay on her deathbed and died, and so it's you're right. They're all quite dramatic. Now, over the last couple of years, you've been doing the Shadow Initiative with Stephen,
Mhm.
and how's that all going?
That's going great. The show has just has blown up. And before I got involved in that, I was involved in a radio show back in the early days when podcasting first became a thing, and kind of a bad experience with it. And I got done with it. I was like, I'm never doing this ever again. But Steven came to me and he's like, I've considered a lot of different people and talked to a lot of different people, but I keep coming back to you because I can't find anything wrong with you. And I thought that was kind of funny because it's like, yeah, I'm an open book. I mean, what you see is what you get. I'm not out there to be famous, and I'm not out there to be. I'd rather be respected than be famous any day of the week. But yeah, we started doing it, and in fact, our very first guest was Ann Massey from
Mm.
Spooky Isles. I thought that she would be a great first guest. So, but since then, yeah, it is blown up. It's exploded. Where you can find us at Spotify, Amazon. We were on Amazon's homepage um, earlier in the month, and yeah, we're getting a lot of downloads, a lot of listens. People are really digging what we do, man.
Mm. No, it's a great show, and I've been on there,
Thank
so
you.
that shows you the
Yes, you're just
quality
as
of
welcome.
interviewee that you have on these shows. So, and what have you got coming up? Obviously, Halloween. Now, this is the one. It reminded me. We had this kind of semi debate just before semi
Mhm.
debate before when you said that Halloween was better than Christmas. Do you not think that Christmas is a bit spooky?
Here in the United States, not so much, but I
Mm,
know that it was a big tradition in your little corner of the world. Ghost stories
mm,
during Christmas. I mean, of course, you have Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, which is an immortal classic, and it set around the holiday season, or I'm sorry, Christmas season. But yeah, so over here, Christmas really isn't about ghost stories. It's about spending time with family and you know opening gifts. I guess but yeah, Christmas is really isn't a spooky affair here in the United States.
Yeah, well, it's very much. I think it is because you've got M.R. James. I mean, the thing here
Oh
in
yeah.
Britain, we have the tradition of having a ghost story for Christmas, Christmas
Mhm.
night, on New Year's Eve, all these type of things. It's always on the BBC. You've always got ghost stories on there, and probably because you're in the middle of winter, and it's a spooky time. So I actually quite like it. So I don't, as much as a tear drips down my face thinking, Halloween's over for another year, we've got the excitement of Christmas and all the wonderful things that are coming.
Sure.
So, it's not just all about the gift giving and, the eating and stuff like that. It is about, it's a bit spooky and it's a bit more fun. And you've got to take something nice out of the fact that it's cold and horrible outside.
Hmm. I do. I have caught some of that on YouTube. There's a lot of Mr. James, you know, re, uh, reenactments or whatever on YouTube, and I
Yeah.
love that I think his name is Mark Gaddis. I
Yes.
love that Mark Gaddis has brought that back,
Yeah.
and yeah, I wish that we could have that here in the United States. But I think the scariest thing we have here in the United States is Krampus, the
Krampus. Yeah.
Christmas demon. Like, okay, growing up in an Irish American family, never even heard
No.
of Krampus. Never heard of it. And then I marry my wife, who is, German American, and like Krampus is a big deal in her family. We have like this huge Saint Nick party every year for Saint Nicholas, which
Mm,
is, another German holiday. And like all the kids get gifts, but whoever is a crusty, grumpy old fart throughout the year gets Krampus's stick.
mm,
So and it's a lot of fun, and it's really fun for the kids. The thing is now is like the kids are getting older,
mm.
so obviously nobody is really going to believe in Krampus anymore. But it's still a fun thing to do. So that is like the scariest thing that I can think of, you know, doing around the Christmas season.
Mm. I had heard of that years ago because I had this big Santa Claus book when I was a kid, and it had all the different traditions around the world. So it wasn't
Mhm,
unknown to me. I think it's only really been in the last decade or so, or even last 5 years, you start seeing stuff up on the internet about that. Because I
mhm,
think it's a sort of it's a German thing, and therefore, and I think they made a film about sort of a horror film about Krampus and all that kind of stuff. So
They've
it's
made
not.
a few about them, and they're horrible.
Are they? Okay, so I mean, it sounds like a cool idea, but it's foreign, and and that's all right. So, but if you're telling me they're crap, I won't watch them anyway. So, but it's really good that your kids have got all these different types of traditions to
Yeah,
enjoy
yeah,
and enjoy that.
it's a lot
So
of
that's the
fun.
one bit of, yeah. I think there are, yeah. There's lots of type of, yeah. There's lots of quite weird traditions with Christmas, and some of them aren't so nice, but some of them are quite lovely. And so we've got articles on the Spooky Hours about all that, which people could read. Now we need to finish up, but it's important that people know about your book. Now I sit there. How do people get a copy of Rick E. Hale as opposed to Rick Hale? How do we get a copy of your Ghostwatch?
You can find that at Amazon.
Okay, all right.
Very, quite easily. You can also, find my other books. I got four out. The first one is The Geek's Guide to the Strange and Unusual,
Yep.
Poltergeist, Ghosts, and Demons. Second one is Behold, Shocking True Tales of Terror and Some Other Spooky Stuff. Third one is Bullets, Booze, and Babes, The Haunted History of Illinois and Chicago. And this latest one being Ghostwatch.
A lot of great books there. So we'll have links for all of those down below. Now, what are you going to be doing for the rest of Halloween? It's Halloween
Um,
night. It's Halloween night with my inverted commas there. What are you doing later?
we are taking our son probably trick or treating. He's 11 years old, and we think that this will probably be his last year trick or treating. So we'll go to one of the neighborhoods here, and we live on a farm. Our closest neighbor is about a mile down the road, but we'll go to one of the local neighborhoods, and he'll do some trick or treating.
And are you dressing up?
I was thinking about dressing up as a pirate because, as you know, I'm an amputee, so my left
Yeah,
leg is
that's
a
true.
prosthetic limb. So I thought about dressing up like a pirate.
Yeah, and you can maybe take the leg off while you're walking along or something. I don't know how that would work, but that's you see these people on thing where they can do things and looks horrible. But no, a pirate would be cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It is. So I look forward to seeing a photograph of that. You must post that, and we'll let people see it. Anyway,
We'll see what I
thanks
can
very
do.
much for that, Rick. You have a great Halloween, and we will
You too.
talk to you later.
All
See
right.
you
Thanks,
later.
David.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.